Aloha everyone, welcome back to 13 Nights of Tiki Frights. I am the Search for Tiki, and the event is 13 days of mug giveaways and 13 nights of terrifying interviews with ceramic cocktail artists. Tonight we are giving away one of our most popular giveaways ever. It is this amazing mug by, of course, the one and only Tiki Diablo. This is called the Thirsty Creature. It was sold by the Black Lagoon Rum, who is an official sponsor of 13 Nights of Tiki Frights this year. And as you can see, it's a pretty cool mug. We are also going to be giving away, during this interview with the one, the only Jungle Modern Ceramics, a couple of other goodies from our sponsors. Also from the Black Lagoon Rum is this Thirsty Creature pin, which is their pin version of that mug that I just showed you. And add class with glass using Surfside Sips. This glass cocktail straw was custom made by Surfside Sips with this black bat here at the top. It's a pretty tall straw, so it's perfect for your cocktail mugs at home. And with that said, let's see if we can get Jungle Modern Ceramics in. I've been looking forward to talking to him for weeks, so I'm pretty excited. How's it going, man?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming. It's good to see you.
Yeah, great to be here. Been a while since I've had the opportunity to do much tiki stuff, so I'm excited.
You've been busy.
I
you
have.
recently moved.
You know, I did. It was only 7 months ago. Can you guys hear and see me? Okay, everything's all good? Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, it was 7 months ago already, but I mean, it feels like 2 months ago at this point. Moved the whole house, the whole studio, all that good stuff, and just getting relocated and set up and getting back to business has just been a lot more work than I had anticipated. So
It's usually that way.
yeah,
You never
I know,
realize
right?
just how much stuff you own until you try to pack it up and move it.
Oh yeah, and you know, in addition to all the tiki stuff, I got all the pottery and everything there too. So it was, you know, the whole shop in 2 separate collections of things. So and then right after that, going back the last 10 weeks, I've been getting ready for Tiki Caliente, which was last weekend, and that was
that your first big back to Tiki Bash?
Yeah, so since November 2019. So yeah, it would be 2 years next month since my last event. So, you know, it just goes to show how much you really miss people, and the time goes by quick, and it was nice to reconnect with everyone. And at the same time, you know, one of the things I miss about those events is just getting to meet new people. I've met so many great people in this kind of little community, and it just kind of keeps you coming back. So it was nice to revisit with everyone, and you know,
Did you get to vend there?
Faces to some of the names of people who I've gotten to know over the last couple online too. So I'm sorry.
It's always weird on social media because you make these friends online.
Yeah.
And oftentimes you talk to them on a daily basis. You feel like you know them. And then when you meet them in person, it's like, I didn't know they sounded like that, or I didn't know they were that tall. There's always those little idiosyncrasies that kind of spring up on you.
No, not internet, real life.
Yeah. So were you vending at Tiki Caliente?
Yes, I was.
Were you in a mad dash leading up to the event, trying to get inventory?
You know, I was, and no matter how far I try and plan ahead, you know, it always ends up that way. Even, you know, with the move, I started like 5 weeks before I actually got out of the place, and you know, it seems like my whole life's mad. So, yeah, just it was crazy. You know, I probably unloaded the last glaze firing probably the Tuesday morning, and I went down to my folks' house to visit with them for a day before I went down to Palm Springs. So,
Yep.
yeah, load them in the car hot.
That's how we like them.
Yeah,
Those mugs hot off the press.
yeah. So the little ping sometimes.
How is
So,
so you have, it's been quite an upgrade, right? So you've gone from, I believe, working out of your garage to having a pretty significant, substantial workspace.
you know, I'm super lucky. I really lucked into a great place. It's on my property, so it's about a 100-foot walk. So, it is nice. I am in Central California now. Before I was on the east side of the Sierra Nevada mountains, and I'm probably only 70 miles from where I actually was straight shot, but you have to go through Yosemite is the closest way to get around this little mountain range there. And so I'm now on the west side of the Sierra. So they're both pretty rural.
But one sounds a lot more convenient.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And as far as like life things, being able to pursue all the artwork opportunities that I want to, and then just life opportunities as far as growing my own food and things like that. So,
Have you started? Or are you still just settling in? You haven't gotten to the home farm yet?
the infrastructure has slowly been going into place. Coming in, there's a lot of CAL FIRE work that I need to do to keep my home safe. The first 30 feet needs to be cut down to 1 inch, and then 70 through 100 needs to be down to 4 inches. I'm in fire country. In the 7 months that I've been here, I've been on the verge of being evacuated 3 separate times. So, in order for them to protect my home in worst case scenario situation, I need to follow through or kind of obey with all the standards that they set forth.
Yikes.
Trees over 18 feet tall, no brush below 6 feet. So, A, it was just, doing the stuff. And then B, what do I do with all the waste? And so that kind of goes into my long-term plan of, composting and doing this whole kind of culture garden. And then the animals are, I thought it was wild over on the east side of the Sierras where I was, but over here there's more water, so we got more wildlife. And my crops were decimated by the squirrels. Like my favorite thing is tomatoes and basils and dang squirrel. So
It's always the squirrel.
I know, squirrels and gophers, So,
But now tell me that was a joke in your Instagram post, the tarantula.
oh no,
What was that? Are you trying to mess with me?
No. 2 weeks ago, I saw my first tarantula in real life. I was out in the workshop. I turned around, I was washing a bucket, and I turned around from like 30 feet away. I was like, tarantula. I was so happy because all I hear is actually where I live in Corscold, they have a tarantula festival every year. And I think it's the day before Halloween this year. And so they have like a costume contest for kids, tarantula arts and crafts and tarantula races. And I guess they have a hairy leg contest for men and women and a couple other cool things. So I guess it's the tarantula mating season, and that's why it's a big deal around here.
So are you going to be participating in the hairy leg tarantula contest?
I think I'll be getting ready for Halloween. Put the final touches.
That's the frights and 13 Nights of Tiki Frights.
Yeah, if I start shaving them a couple days in the room, get hairy for the contest. So
That's so ridiculous.
In line with the wildlife, I hope it's not too far off subject, but turkey, quail, bobcats. I haven't seen a mountain lion, but I know they're around. The area that I live in specifically is called the Wild Pig by locals because all the wild pig, apparently. But I have not seen one yet. but I guess I'm about a third of a mile away from the Fresno River, so I guess having a consistent water source really brings in the wildlife, which is cool. I enjoy it.
It's a matter of time.
But yeah, apparently there was a bear maybe just at the top of the hill from here, so maybe that's like a third, half of a mile. So there's everything around here because of the creek fire last year. That was one of the big fires on the west side of the sea.
Yep.
A lot of the wildlife has come a little bit, to lower elevations.
Unhinged. They're moving around.
Yeah. So even in my little community, all kinds of people's chicken coops are broken into, and yeah.
Batten down the hatches. Protect the mugs. The
Yeah.
squirrels, they're coming for the mugs.
Today we had 2.5 inches of rain. I haven't seen a storm like that in forever. So it was crazy here yesterday. I was thinking about it. But
So, not to change the subject, but
no,
I have so many
good. I'll
questions
bore you
about
to
mugs
death.
that I just want to throw at you. And I know we got a limited time. So in your post, you were talking about wanting different kilns. And I know you do things a little bit differently. Most people are just slip cast, slip cast, slip cast. You do a lot of wheel thrown stuff. What are the other kilns you're looking at, and what are the advantages of, like, what are you trying to do with them?
Well, I come from a studio pottery background, so I didn't even know about what slip casting was really. I knew that I wanted to make tiki mugs, and
Yep.
that, what got me into the whole thing. So where most tiki mug artists, we fire out of electric kilns. That's called an oxidation environment because all the heat's being generated by the electric coils. And I actually, first studio I ever did ceramics at, it's a high fire reduction studio, so they were all gas kilns. And so within a reduction atmosphere, it's an oxygen starved firing atmosphere, so you're going to get different atmospheric effects within the kiln. And
Yep.
I didn't realize that at the time, so I'm sculpting all these things, trying to get these consistent results. And the more I learned about it, it's like, oh well, this doesn't really work for doing limited edition types of mugs. So I got to start hand building one of a kind pieces. And shortly after I took my first ceramics class, I started trying throwing the potter's wheel. And
Yep.
so I led to just doing simple wheel throw coconut mugs, which I still make to this day. I think there's something about just the wheel throwing, the simplicity about it that I really like. And one of the potters who I kind of look up to, Tom Coleman, he talks about you can just have a beautiful form and a beautiful glaze, and for two things, match
Yep.
just right. You can have these two super simplistic elements and make a very beautiful and piece.
That's
So
one of the things I love about your mugs in particular, because a lot of mug makers out there are like, I want to make a leopard clinging to an airplane and, these crazy concepts. And then it's all about like form and colors and texture. And they're beautiful pieces. They're
thank you.
not overwhelming. They're simplistic, but also like intriguing.
Thank you. Yeah, I try and pack as much detail into a more simplistic form, maybe,
Yep.
or I'm just trying to work within maybe a traditional form and keep it like that. And, within my comfort range too, I kind of make things that I like to see in my own home. And it is a little bit, simplistic, I guess. So I try to keep everything.
It seems simplistic, but it's not.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of thought.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, almost even harder to put a lot of thought into something and make something really unique and have it look like it's not complicated is really, really hard.
Thank if I could make molds like some of the other guys, I wouldn't be detail all as well. So it has its advantage too.
When did you decide you wanted to make mugs?
I would say it was a little over years ago, I think, because I took my ceramics class because
Yep.
I did want to make mugs. And it's funny because I sold vintage Aloha shirts before I got into tiki. I didn't even know like full tiki kind of existed. I've always kind of had like the palm tree kind
Yep.
of, in all of my apartments and whatnot growing up. Have worn Aloha shirts since I was 15, 16 years old and never stopped. And, I just kind of got into vintage Aloha shirts, long story short, found on a shirt with a label, did my Google research. It was an old, maybe beachcombers. And that's when I found Tiki Central and saw the other craft section. And like
That
the
was the
three
beginning of the
people,
end.
yeah, Babalu, Wendy, and Gecko, were posting. Wendy was posting a lot. Bob Blue was still posting at the time, and it's just like, wow, these things are badass, and I want to make one. I literally Googled classes in Pasadena and took my first class. And
Man, that's killer. There's so much information that was lost on Tiki Central, but it's wonderful.
yeah,
If people haven't, you can send a friend request on Facebook to Wendy Zavola on Facebook, and she's starting to post some of the content that she had on Tiki Central on her Facebook. And even, I mean, I don't know, is this 10, 15 years later? It's still like
yeah.
mind-blowing.
I think she had like a million posts or something ridiculous. I mean,
Yeah.
such like a great resource of information. And I mean, she's just like one of the best out there and like the sweetest person you'll ever meet. And I mean, all the detail that she would go through and the step by step. I mean, for anybody interested in ceramics, there's like so much you could learn just from looking at her book. I mean, and so yeah, here I am. Thank you, Wendy, and and all the people before me. They've all been super supportive, and no way I'd be without their encouragement and support too.
That's so awesome. You're standing on the shoulders of greats, and now there are other new people
Yeah,
that are inspired by you. So
thank
it's continuing the tradition of mugs.
you.
Um,
It is.
I know a
It's
lot
great.
of your craft, or it seems a lot of your craft seems to be inspired by Papua New Guinea. Is there a particular reason? Why are you drawn to that island in particular?
I just like the style of art. Again, going back to things in my own home,
Yep.
say there's a good amount of authentic Papua New Guinea pieces in here, and I like them because they kind of go with the simplistic yet detailed kind of thing that we were talking about earlier, going back to like the primitive modern art, I guess,
Yep.
the 60s where a lot of the more tribal works were being featured within people's homes. You can have it within a super intricate and detailed tiki room, or you can have a nice, I don't know, manicured white walls home and just have a Papua New Guinea mask, as a standalone piece. And it kind of brings this other element. So I guess that it's versatile and it just the style.
Yeah. I totally agree. It's one of those things where like you can see it in a museum and
Mm-hmm.
just be completely blown away, and you're looking at it and it's like it's just a mask. So
Yeah.
like it shouldn't be as interesting as it is, but you just
Mm-hmm.
can't stop looking at it.
I got to say, my favorite mask that I found at the Rose Bowl flea market, and the mask, it's a tortoise, and then it has human hair around the edge, and all the shells are inlaid with mud and everything, and then it has this really intricately woven basketry around the outside, and then cassowary feathers on it.
Okay.
And to me, it's like the most awesome thing ever. And I like how it incorporates all of those elements. And I believe it is an ancestor, kind of based belief system. So, depending on its actual origin and authenticity, it does have, this deeper meaning and real connection to other people. And
I love how so you kind of incorporate some of that mixed media into your own mugs. Like
yes,
your most recent one has the would you call it a grass skirt
yes,
around the bottom?
use the just a jute twine for
Yep.
gardening. Yeah, discovered that one a few years back. I like that. And let's see, I try and use real shells on something when I inlay those, after the pieces have been firing, because of the heat. And the pieces actually shrink by about, 10 to say 13%, depending on what kind of slip or clay body you're using, from the time it starts drying through the glaze
Yep.
process there. And then I also like to use black grout to give the shells that weathered look. So
Okay.
other one of the things that I, for the mixed media part that I incorporate into the work. And, that's what's really frustrating. And I got to say, that's like the least favorite part of working with those, because you don't get the grout just right. If you let it dry on there too much, I'm like trying to file it, and you can't use like a real file to damage a shell. So, I'm trying to use like really fine pieces of sandpaper, and, like 6 shells in, like your fingertips are all raw and everything.
Oh.
I got like 100 more of these to do. And then they don't always fit in the pieces. So then I'm going through and picking through like, okay, this fits in there, that fits in there. And then they all got to be relatively the same size, things like that. So I think those, have ended up being a lot more work than I bargained for in the beginning. But, the end result always is that I'm happy that I did it in the end. So,
I think that's the overall theme of ceramics. It ends up being a lot more work than you anticipated.
uh-huh. It's like everything, if I say something, I got to add like 30% on to any deadline. And same thing, I mean, even with like Tiki Caliente, thought that I gave myself like a good month fishing in again. But then as an artist, I guess you always kind of push yourself too. There's things that maybe you weren't planning on doing. And you're
You
like,
don't want
oh,
to get bored.
this.
It's got to be
Well,
interesting for you too.
yeah. So it's like, oh, I want to be more diverse, instead of just having mainly, the two latest mugs and things like that. So there's never a shortage of things to do to myself to make me more crazy.
What's your cutoff on quantity? Like, I will make this X amount of money, X amount of mugs, and then like I never want to look at this mug again.
The most I've ever said, is 100. And I think, with waste and probably just being disorganized, like maybe 105 or so is probably the most I've ever done of anything. I think that was probably like maybe the Bad Fish, Leaning Tower of Tongaroa, in the Lono. And anything else, I think has maybe been in the 60 to 80 ballpark.
Yep.
With
Okay.
the latest Birdman, I think I'm gonna maybe do in the 125 ballpark, just because it seems like I can sell them. There's just a balance between what I think that I can like mentally handle, and yeah, it's just a balance of a bunch of things. What I think I can sell to be totally
Yeah.
okay too. So yeah, it's about
Uh,
all
you
those.
mentioned Bad Fish.
Hmm.
That's one of my personal favorites that you've
Oh,
done. Looks like that
thank you.
mean-looking piranha. Um, I believe I saw in a post that you melted down the sculpt to make your first enchanted order. Do you use monster clay? What do you use to make your
That
sculpts?
play, yes. In the past, I would say I moved to Big Pine, so that was like 3 years ago. So maybe the last 3 years, I've used monster clay. Before I was just sculpting, or yeah, monster. Okay, just in like regular stoneware,
Yep.
which they have their advantages and disadvantages. Monster clay get way cleaner detail, but at the same time, I like working quick, and with the clay, I can shape and get where I kind of want to be quicker. And I also like how things can change with the clay really quickly. From working fast, I might sit down and want to make a marquesan, but as I'm working with it, it looks like a Birdman a little bit. And so then I'll kind of keep pulling that, and it's like, okay, this is going to be a Birdman now, and it takes on a different life of
I
its.
wonder if that, see, I feel like that's almost probably because you started on the wheel. And the wheel is like an all or nothing. Like it can go from very cool to failure very quickly.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to maybe like the whole studio thing that nothing's set, nothing's going to be super consistent. And there was this term that was always thrown, wabi sabi, and it means beauty out of imperfection. And so we would have this like master potter come from Japan every couple of years and hang out for a couple of weeks, and we would kind of communicate the best we could. But there's this one day I was throwing a pot, and it was like I was gonna throw away, and he's like, move over, and he sits down, takes it off, and smashes it aside, and kind of gives it this big look, and he's like, here, and I'm like, that's awesome. And so the next time I messed up a pot like that, I basically did the same thing that he did, and started making a Papua New Guinea mask out of it. So,
Do you learn by watching?
oh yeah, absolutely. And just taking other maybe foundational ideas and applying them to my tiki art. For example, wheel throwing like bigger vessels,
Yep.
and putting two pieces together where it's like, well, maybe I can't throw a 20-inch tall vessel, with one piece, but I can make a top and a bottom and put them together, and then start applying, my vision for that piece, to it. So, yeah,
What's the biggest thing you've ever thrown on a wheel?
maybe about 20-ish inches, so maybe after firing, probably down to about like 18 or so, something like that. That's one thing I want to do this winter, because for the bigger pieces, you want to dry them slower. Just so,
Yep.
when you're combining multiple pieces of clay. So, the different clay, the moisture can kind of redistribute evenly between the pieces, and then slower dry with preventing cracking and issues like that. So, winter time's perfect for trying to do some bigger scale pieces. I definitely see, some. Here's like slab built Lono lamp
Oh,
that I did. Can you see it there?
yep.
A while back, and some pieces like that. So that's slab built, but I could do the same thing on the potter's wheel. Just throw it really thick, and then kind of do my carving and whatnot from there too. So it's always interesting too, because I could make the same piece by either hand building with slabs of clay or throwing cylinders. So
Yep.
there's two different ways to approach it. I think probably throwing the initial form is probably a safer way to do it, but not everyone can throw. So it's just what works for you, and kind of, what you want to accomplish.
How high your ambitions can go.
Yeah.
Because it's always kind of a balance, like the vision in your head and how high your ambitions are and what you can actually accomplish
Yeah.
in ceramics and the kiln. And it's like finding that balance of what am I capable of and what am I dreaming of,
Yeah.
and where do those two things meet?
Okay, so you remind, since got off subject. Back to the gas kilns.
Yeah.
What I want to do, um, one of my mentors, Steve Davis, he built this kiln called the Kazagama. It's a gas kiln that we introduce wood ash into it, cone 9, which we'll say it's about 2,200 degrees. The pots are all red within there. And through the blower of the kiln, take handfuls of wood ash. And so it sucks up, shoots that wood ash to the kiln. That wood ash collects on the pots. We let it go for a couple more hours, and it about cone 11, cone 12. We let that wood ash melt on the pieces and turn it into a glaze. And so that actually really, it's like maybe say like a 3 to 4 day wood firing, and like real like wood fire for Korean ceramic. That's how they were originally done. At first everything was pit fired, and if I'm explaining this correctly, as they came up with clay bodies that withstand higher temperatures, then that wood ash had a chance to melt, and they're like, "Hey, look at this," and so you get all these different atmospheric effects. So
Yeah.
build a mini Kazagama kiln modeled out Steve's to get these wood ash effects. So I do use that for my Japanese style pottery that I do, and for my tiki work, I see myself using it for. Remember my hand built Easter moais with the wood grain and whatnot. I see myself doing those in like a stoneware, and so those pieces in that kiln you can side fire them on like seashells. So as that ash hits the pot and melts, it'll start to stream. And so I'd like to do like side fired Easter Island moai, have that wood ash stream hit them like right in the face, and maybe horizontally, and make these streaming like ash marks on the pieces. And then there will be all this, these different flashing effects just from the atmosphere within the kiln, and then it'll have the seashell marks that it laid on, with that ash glaze kind of
Yeah.
cooling around it. So it's all just stuff you could never ever repeat. And
That
so,
sounds both exciting and terrifying.
yeah, well, coming from that old studio, I ended up running it after my maybe like 5.5 years after my first class, and so it was all gas kilns, and the biggest gas kiln we had maybe a 54 cubic foot interior. And so, man, those things are awesome. When you boost them, they sound like a jet engine. And man, the last time I went to Steve's Kazogama workshop, I hadn't fired with the gas kiln in probably like 2 years since I had moved. And like it was moving, man. It brought like a tear to my eye. It's like, serious. It's like this jet engine rumble, and it's a kiln, like I get to put, my artwork in this thing, and we get to see what the fire and the ash is going to do. And another thing that I like to do with that was take my locally sourced materials from the Ojima Valley. And so there's this potter's valley in Japan called Shigaraki. And so I would try and emulate that style and add local decomposed granite to my pieces. And then also take, like, say, mud from the Owens River and make slip glazes, and go to I don't know, lava deposits, and get the super fine stuff and make a separate slip glaze with that, and mix them with porcelain and slap them on the piece, and take a handful of decomposed granite and chuck it on there and see what sticks, what does, then take a paddle and start whacking it in.
How is firing in this gas kiln different from, say, like Japanese ceramics raku firing?
So raku I've never done, and I believe there's a range from really low fire raku ware to where they do higher fire wares where like the clay body actually vitrifies. From what I understand, a lot of people say is like, raku ware is not food safe, but then I see Japanese ceramics that are labeled raku for, and they have like T-bowls and, functional. So while I don't know for sure, I believe there are two separate categories of raku where they do low fire and high fire. And what was your question more specific again?
How raku firing is different than what you're talking about in a gas kiln that's using
Yeah,
composite materials.
in a gas kiln, like these days. And so they make these kilns that the walls can be lifted up. So they'll have like a pulley system for them, and
Yep.
they'll expose the red hot glowing pieces. And so then, you'll take your tongs and you can put them into like a metal, like say horsehair or wood ash. And so the piece is going to shock cool,
Oh, okay. So the
and
difference, it sounds like raku firing, like once you're exposing it to the materials, it's already cooling down
yeah,
versus it's being exposed in heat in a
yeah.
kiln.
You take like pieces of horsehair or something, so the piece is red hot, and then so it's interacting with different materials differently. Once it's applied to that heat, so the horsehair will do something different than say wood chip or straw or something like that. So yeah, that's going to be shot cooled, and then raku pieces. I've also seen like a coating that is kind of formed maybe from the carbon. I don't know, but you chip it off, and then it exposes what's underneath there. So yeah, again, MP does some raku wear, and I'm not sure who else in Tiki has done raku, but I know MP for sure.
I did not know that. I didn't know anyone in Tiki had done raku firing.
Yeah,
MP Ceramics?
Johnny Velour too has done some raku as well.
Oh man, now I'm gonna have to look it up.
Yeah, Johnny is like one of my favorites going back to because he's a potter. He wheel throws all of his pieces, and
Yep.
he from a cone 10 reduction firing studio, the same as where I started. So, I got a soft place in my heart for reduction firing for sure. And I mean, that's what I love about his pieces. Some of the glazes you can't get in an electric kiln. Say like an ox blood red would be like a considered a copper red glaze. If you fired that in an electric kiln, it would turn out an opaque, glassy green, see-through, glassy green, and fired well in a reduction environment, you get this ox blood red, man. That is just really sought after because it's hard to achieve, and you got to have like perfect reduction environment. So
So next level. So let's do a giveaway. I have more questions I want to talk to you about glazing, but let's do a giveaway for this Surfside Sips straw.
nice.
It's got a little bat for you Halloween fans on there on glass. Surfside Sips is dedicated to removing plastic from the oceans through glass straws. So follow Surfside Sips. The first person to comment the correct answer in the comments will win this straw. This is a relatively easy question, so you have to be fast. What year was the Search for Tiki founded? What year did we start the Search for Tiki? Write it in the comments. I'll keep an eye. First person to get it right will win this Surfside Sip straw. I wanted to ask you about glazes in particular because your mugs have incredibly vibrant colors juxtaposed with like weathered wood, kind of dull, muted tones. Is there a place that you pulled your color palette from, or is that just what appeals to you?
It's what appeals to me. I've always gone with the more traditional red, brown, yellow Papua New Guinea pieces, but I've always liked orange and blue and turquoise and orange, turquoise and yellow. And I guess I've never had a place within my home to display that kind of stuff. And as I've kind of had places more to myself the last several years. Had more time and more space to do some decorating, and I've kind of done it purposely because I do want to move out, not just be stuck to one color palette. I want to keep doing things that I enjoy, but at the same time, I want to give people what they want to, and be able to sell things and make a living too. So it's definitely made me more open to using other colors and do it a little bit quick. But I don't really see myself messing around, with any other combinations, unless it's something that I'm really drawn to. For like the brightness,
Yep.
the orange and blue and the turquoise, or I think that's about my threshold level there. So don't hold me to that, but I'm pretty
They
sure that.
pop, man. They pop so good.
Thank you.
I how many? So in order to achieve the effect that it's well, by the way, we did get a correct answer. So the first person to guess it correctly was Princess underscore Queen. You won the straw from Surfside Sips. We were founded in 2020. We just had our first year anniversary July 1st of this year. So we're still relatively new, but thanks everybody for tuning in. So your mugs have this like crazy look to them. They look authentic. They don't look like they were just made. They look like they were made a long time ago. How many times do you have to fire the mugs, or what techniques do you use to make it look like that?
I just do a bisque firing and a glaze firing. I think that it's the wood grain that I was telling people at Tiki Caliente. I think it's been 6 years of refining the wood grain, and I have a struggle with it. Some of the colors I like better than others, because I do go for that weathered look. So I try and have that varied look and do it with, to highlight all the details. I'll put on the black underglaze and wipe it off. But I always say that there's an art to the white. And so, uh, I don't want to just,
That's the phrase of tonight.
yeah,
There's an art to the white.
art to the white. But yeah, so I don't want to leave it all even. I try to leave that black, in contrast with the raw clay body, and then I know that I'm going to come over with my second color,
Yep.
and so I try to vary the thickness when I come through with my top color, and it's the brush strokes, I think. But that's one of the things that drives me crazy. I think I'm a little sensitive about, if I can see a brush stroke, I'm like, oh well, that's not
I don't want to buy
not
that.
enough. So I set myself up for these little, I don't know, mind games as an artist, where we really like to beat ourselves up, and it's tough. Yeah, but nevertheless, it's just a lot of work. I fire it, just once for the glaze firing, and if I feel like I have to come through and touch things up, I'll definitely do it. But I think it's all about the application and leaving some of that black underglaze underneath to add more contrast. So I got a lot of things. You got the wood grain with the highlighted underglaze underneath, and then the little bit that I leave on the surface to pop through the top, and then just a varied layer of what I do on top. And with all those things working with and against each other, that
That's how you get that
I get
that
where
authentic look that looks like it was abandoned on an island 300 years ago.
yeah.
We
So
had so Coxswain Dunsel was on the show earlier this week,
oh yeah.
and he was saying that he uses a lot of underglazes. Then we
Mhm.
talked to Tiki Rob, and he says he like never uses underglazes. Do you use underglazes?
No, that's yeah. I use underglazes. Absolutely. I like those. They work for me. I do want to experiment, with putting some gloss on them, but we'll see. There's a time and place for everything, and
You don't strike me as a glossy glaze kind of guy.
I'm really not, but it kind of goes to the color palette thing too. As long as I can make something I feel good about and not like a total sellout, then I'm good. If I in my heart I'm like I like that it's cool.
Dude, it's okay if it's different. If you like it, that's all that matters.
I do this to make me happy, and that's like number one. I guess I love all of you and but I started doing art just for my escape, and man, I think
That's the thing.
art.
See, a lot of people see like now. I think now more than ever, tiki mugs. Run of 500 tiki mugs, and they sell out right away. And people
Yeah,
are like, "Oh man, I should make tiki mugs because you can make a lot of money making tiki mugs."
yeah.
But at the end of the day, it is a huge pain in the ass. It
It's,
is a labor of love, and if you don't love it, you ain't gonna be happy, and you ain't gonna make money.
yeah, there's a lot of self doubt, and maybe that's what I was trying to explain earlier about that brush stroke that I can see. There's a lot of self
Yeah.
doubt involved with all of this too, and you just got to keep believing. Hasn't been easy to get to this point. There's been a lot of stress.
I think there's this feeling among a lot of artists that Tiki isn't going to be around forever, right? Because we had Tiki the
Yeah,
first wave, and Tiki kind of crashed because people saw it as cultural appropriation. They didn't like it. It was their parents' things, and they wanted to
yeah.
separate themselves from their parents. So Tiki went down, and
Hmm.
then it kind of had another bump. And then now I think this is the third wave,
Yeah.
thanks to the greats like Beach Bum Berry and Tiki
Hmm.
Otto, Sven
Oh,
Kirsten, all those people. Do you feel like Tiki uh, only has a few years left? Do you feel like uh, it's here to stay?
I feel like in terms of size, it's here to stay versus the numbers 2 and 3 years ago. Um, I want to say yes. There's a certain aesthetic about it. It's escapism. Going back, everything. It is a good escape for people. It makes them happy. For me, it's always been about this like visual aesthetic, and I can see why that's catching on with more and more people. And I don't see life getting any less stressful
Stressful. If
or,
the past year has
over the
taught us
next
anything.
years. So I see it has the potential to get even bigger. If we all need something to make us happy, and whether it's a cocktail or having a tiki mug or this little corner of your house, that you have these memories that you've accumulated over the years going to your first tiki bar, first tiki event, that moment that you're there thinking about that piece, you get to escape from all the bullshit that's going on. So I think it's here to stay, and I see it getting bigger.
That's
And
what it's all about.
I just hope that I can still provide that, give people that little break.
Man, that's why I think that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
That's what if you can distract someone for even a second, even a
Mhm.
minute from whatever's bothering them,
Yeah.
intrigue them in a piece of ceramic art or a piece of exotica music or, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
if you can just distract them for a minute so that they forget whatever's going on in their life and just appreciate art,
Hmm.
that's what it's all about. And it's kind of weird that it would come from like a kitschy ceramic mug,
Hmm.
that would be the segue into so many people appreciating ceramics and art, but
Yeah.
such is life.
We're lucky to have all the Disney, and I like how not everyone likes it, but for ceramics, I think it's been great. All the different groups kind of cross connecting. People
Yeah.
like Boris Tiki, Disney Tiki, blah blah blah. Yeah, there's a time and place for everything, but as far as ceramics and people provide people the opportunity to do what they love and make money off of it, and maybe make a full-time living. I mean, it's awesome. And I think it's really benefited a lot of who might just I've been working different jobs trying to pursue the entrepreneurial dream
Yeah.
of life, and
It's a beautiful thing when you're passionate can also become something profitable.
yeah,
And that's what Tiki is starting to become.
yeah,
And it's amazing. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why we started the search for Tiki is so that we can promote the small artists that, we believe in. We love your art
thank
and we want to support you guys and make sure that, you can make enough money doing what you do
yeah,
to
and
keep doing it.
and thank you guys. I mean, because what you guys have done has been amazing for getting the word out and helping us, artists too. So thank you. I mean,
We appreciate that. But back to the mug talk. Back to the mug
yeah, yeah,
talk. Um, we're talking about glazes. We're talking about your weathered wood look.
under glazes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know you create molds.
Hmm.
How much of the weathered wood look on your mugs is part of the mold, and how much of it is scratched in afterwards?
Yeah, it's all pretty much scratched in after.
Yeah.
Yeah, this for the last two for like the bigger cracks, I've tried to follow like a formula, get them in the same general area, whereas before it was just all creating a new pattern every one, and it's just too wearing. So this time I found one that I liked, and then used that as a model, but they all get free-handed. Just for me, I'll like literally try and like recreate something every single one, and it's like, well, I literally spent like a half hour making 30 individual wood grain cracks. I just can't work.
Is that like something that's intentional, or that's just a limitation of molds and the amount of detail that can come out of them?
How deep you want to go with them. For the ones that I do with the dental pick, I don't. You couldn't get that deep out of the mold just because can't pull away. And I think you would
Yeah.
not all of it would pull out either in the mold making process or the casting process, and you would just end up having to clean them all up anyway. So instead of picking out each little individual blemish or whatever, I just do it all finish.
Do you ever have issues where like you dig a little too deep and it comes through the center? And if so, can you fix that?
Yes, absolutely. I've done it. You can fill it from the front, and it's also the type of thing that after the bit of firing, you have the opportunity to check, and if you can see light, then probably toss it. Then for myself, maybe I'll glaze it to see. It's like, oh wow, okay, well, if it's like a pinhole, the glaze is going to pull it through, but it's more for seeing the limitations of the clay and glaze, you know troubleshooting, like, is it worth troubleshoot this way, or
Yep.
just forget it thing. So yeah, I mean,
Um,
I like ceramics. You can be a student for life. Like, there you'll know everything there is, and that's
you've
I'm
been doing this like how many years? And what would you rate your like? How do you feel personally, proficiency level? Do you feel like you're well established and expert, or do you still like get messed with every time you fire the kiln?
the kiln firing. I'm totally comfortable with, and I think it's more of a skill using a gas kiln. You really got to check how you install. You're not watching oxygens. If there's not oxygen, then the gas has nothing to burn. It's just gonna sit there at the same temperature. And you got to know what to do. You want to add more air through the burner system, or do you want to add more air, opening the flue a little bit, and then you might get it to climb for only 5. So what do you do next? You can't just keep opening the flue at the chimney all the way. You can't open the air in the burners all the way. It's kind of like this balance of oxygen, gas, and the flame coming out of the kiln, and knowing what's going on there. But
So you look at it more from like the science perspective, because some people are like, it's the kiln gods. Once I put it in the kiln, it's up to the kiln gods. But you're saying like it's completely controllable, and you just need to know what you're doing.
We put it in the hands of the kiln god, so we have someone else to blame. But from like a proficiency level, still a student, but I like where I'm. I'd like to spend more time fine tuning my sculpting, and just my overall pottery. I think I'm good at throwing, but in terms of like the best, I think I suck. I don't think that people really give wheel throwing the respect that it deserves. I mean, when people throw these forms, these moon shapes that are, you're just like, oh, they feel like they're just going to float out of your hands. I mean, it takes years and years and years and years to do stuff like that. I can throw a nice moon jar, but it's heavy. And like for me, I would love to sit down and throw pots just for 6 months, but I can't afford to do that. I'd go broken, out of business. So, for me moving forward as an artist, it's like times like right now after Tiki Caliente, it's like, okay, trying to invest time and money into infrastructure in the yard, get those kiln bricks, so I at least have, those when I have a little bit more fun to invest in the kiln furniture and a big 5 propane tank and 2 nice propane burners and whatnot. And
ooh, propane.
Yeah.
that's what I do on the side.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Tiki's my passion, but I sell propane.
Okay.
So anytime I tell anyone that, they're like, oh, you sell propane and propane accessories.
Yeah, so these will be run off of propane, no natural gas out here where I'm at. And kiln, where was I? All right, well, yeah, all right.
You're talking about the different kilns that you can set up in your shop, I think.
Yeah, so gas kiln is going to be set up next. I got 2 electric for the tiki mugs and jungle mix, and then I'm hoping to have the first gas kiln built maybe December, January, and so I'll start incorporating some more tiki pieces with that style of fire, as I will have absolute freedom to do whatever I want with that kiln. So it'll be nice.
That's coming up quick.
Yeah, I know it probably won't happen by then, but as always, I'm optimistic.
You gotta be.
Yeah, thanks. 30% onto that. So yeah, like
maybe April.
Yeah. 300% onto it. That's more realistic.
I want to quickly, I know we're starting to run on overtime, but I wanted to talk to you about your Enchanted Order series. It's personally one of my favorite things going on in Tiki right now. I think you did some earlier, but you've done 2 official ones. Yes. What was the inspiration for that series?
I was doing hand built one, and I was calling them enchanted orators. And so then, like, well, I should do like an actual mug. And I don't know if I thought of the series, until the first one was in progress or finished. I honestly don't remember, but I know that I was doing some one-off enchanted orator, and I thought it would be kind of a cool theme to kind of do,
Yeah.
because I like the Papua New Guinea thing, the style of work, art, and I guess the ancestor part of the belief system, just the enchanted orator, and kind of having that connection to family and our spirits and everything, and
I
people
love it.
with us anymore. So and then just kind of they seem like keeping it simple, like an idol style mug too. And so I think
We unfortunately, it sounds like we won't be getting any in 2021. I think that was your plan, but you've been wheel throwing some. I think you called them
the Kovave, or
study pieces. Is that part of Enchanted Order Orator?
it is not. It is not. Yeah, that was funny because so I had these other sculpts in progress that were done in monster clay, but my workshop got up to like 112 this summer, and so they melted. And
Oh,
my plans for the mugs that I was going to do this fall and holiday season fell through. So I took a 25-pound bag of clay and I divided it into four, like 6.25-pound pieces, and two of them, I threw with, and two I built slabs and wrapped them around ABS pipes, and I just went at it. And so the Duck Duck or Kovave, that was the wheel thrown one, and those I've
okay.
done in the past. I've done like lamps and things like that, and just like sculptural kind of one-offs. And so that's one that I'm doing now. And then the other, Birdman, back in 2014, I did a series because Brandon Clay, who did all the design for Trader Sam's Grog Grotto, he
Yeah,
bought,
Trader Brandon. Yep.
yeah, he bought some pieces from me at Dawn the Beamers, and I don't know if they're still behind the bar at Grog Grotto, but they were. And so those were my Birdman. So I'm like, well, I got to do a mug of those. They're behind the bar at Grog Grotto. So I did those, and then fast forward now 6 years later, that was one thing. I had something else in mind, and I was like, oh, it looks like a Birdman, and so I went with it, and here it is. And so
Beautiful.
do a more release, hopefully around November, mid-November. I took maybe 25 or 30 like of the colored ones out to Caliente. They sold, so hopefully I can put some together for the holidays for those guys.
Okay. So that's kind of what's next for you.
I think
When
this year, I think I just want to finish up those two mugs, get them to 100, 125 pieces each, and just put them in my pack. I don't want to, have them linger around in 2022. I'd like to start sculpting and making molds for next year. So once the weather is a little bit more friendly to start slip casting here again in say March maybe, I can just
Yep.
get to work. And it's funny how I've learned to work with the weather, living here in Big Pine too. Because when it gets too cold, the plaster isn't set the same, and the molds don't dry out the same either. So, the turnover is cut way down. Say, like, I can get maybe four castings of a really thin mold when it's like 100 degrees out there. When it's down in like the 40s and 50s, maybe one casting a day, kind
How
of.
many mugs are you pulling from a mold, typically?
Well, as long as I'm not going crazy, because I do so much hand detailing work, in the end, it's not costing me that much time per piece to, get that
Yep.
detail that's lost from the deterioration of the of the plaster. So yeah, but I would say, to answer your question, probably in the 30 to 40 ballpark.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't do like a master mold. I make them all individually. So that's like another thing in, my whole learning process is,
Wait, do you make multiple plaster molds, or are you pulling them all from one plaster mold?
no, I make multiple, but I do each mold individually. Or people will make like a master mold and then,
Yeah.
or yeah, see, that's where I need to go next. But,
Okay.
I do such low runs of pieces, I'm kind of like, well, is it cost effective? How much time am I really saving, kind of a thing too. If I start doing 200, 250 pieces, it seems like it makes more sense to do the block and case master mold thing. So,
Dude, I got so many questions. You're the first person I have talked to that has said that. But first, we got another giveaway.
all right.
The Thirsty Creature pin from the Black Lagoon Room. This is a little bit harder question, but if you've been here since the beginning, you might be able to guess it. What country has the largest linguistic diversity in the world? So what country speaks the most languages? Write it in the comments. The first person to get it correctly will win this pin.
Man, curious about that.
You're the first person that I have heard say they make multiple plaster molds from
My sculpt.
your sculpt. Does your sculpt not get completely destroyed when you're doing the first mold?
It's a gamble.
It's
Yeah.
a gamble.
Yeah, pretty much. I've been using the hard monster clay, so if I have to smooth something out, that's about all I would have to do. I don't call anything, ever really bad happening to it, where it's like, oh, I'm starting out from ground zero. And when I would make them from clay, I would at least bisque fire them first. And then, with the mold release and everything,
Yep.
be pretty safe.
So you've never had like a catastrophic failure of your sculpt from making the mold?
No, no. Had catastrophic things happen while I'm making the mold. It involves plaster spilling everywhere, but yeah, that's
Those are other issues.
the only other catastrophe with my sculpts would be when they melted in the workshop this summer. It's crazy, man. This thing just completely is just like, it's pretty crazy.
Do you think it happened like gradually, or you just like came out one day after it was 110 and it was just gone?
It was pretty gone. I would try and like prop it up against something, but then that piece of the head, would just start melting. And then, so yeah, it was pretty much, it just got to the point where I maybe it had that much surface area to where it melted and it had like that much support in the back, and then it stayed. Yeah. It's kind of, the thing is leaned all the way back. I kind of think about trying to cast it that way, but I don't know if the weight will work. So, but it's
Okay.
that I really wanted. So we'll see if the things that I do in 2022 and try and fix it, I guess. But
I'm excited.
we'll see.
I'm always excited to see what you're coming out with next.
And I know, it's like I want to get back to the Enchanted Orator series in 2022. This year I was going to try and I did a few one-offs kind of as inspiration for when I want to produce another one. And so I had the idea of, doing like 10 to 20 one-offs this year and then kind of using those as inspiration for the next one. But I haven't done a single one. And it's not like I don't think about it. It's just, realistic.
Haven't had time.
I can only do so much. So
if it counts for anything, study subject, I think it's A on your website. I love that one.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think it's fantastic.
Okay. All right.
So for what it's worth,
look at that.
I love A.
Cool.
Do you find yourself that you in order to come up with your ideas, you're wheel throwing and then you like sculpt it later on? Or do you typically just go straight to sculpting?
I usually go straight to sculpting because I can't draw really, and so God, it seems really nice to be able to go from paper to clay. But yeah, it usually happens. I'll start sculpting with something in mind, and it turns into something else. Like I would say 80% of my pieces that I've put into production have probably come to reality like that. So I guess that kind of comes, I don't know, I try not to set too many limitations or be, stuck or set and, doing something. And I guess maybe that helps me have the passion for a piece, I guess. I kind of
Yep.
go like back to, I want something that I have in my own home. And maybe the organic process of that, it's like, oh, well, I did not even have any intention of something like that when I sat down and started. And like, look, 2 days later, I have this thing that I'm going to make molds. I'm going to cast these pieces. I'm going to deal with all the weight and the trials and tribulations, you know, making a tiki.
Making this all, it's crazy the amount of effort that goes into making a tiki mug.
It's a lot of work. It really is.
Yeah.
Not be like, oh yeah, what I do is so hard, but it's a lot of work, and and it's a balance of things. It's not just the talent part, and getting it done. I think being able to get over like the self and being self-conscious about your work and putting it out there, it's tough. It's
Is
not
that the hardest part for you of the mug making process? Like putting it out there, or what's the most challenging thing to you?
when it comes to selling. I don't like that part. I you know I don't like putting myself out there, and if I don't really post that often. Not as much, nearly as much as I should. But I think it's a comfort level. I think I can only put so much out there to where it kind of wears on me mentally and what I'm doing. It's adds more
Yeah.
stress to it, and what I was originally doing for fun. Well, I obviously understand my obligations to people, and I'm grateful for every sale. I do try and keep that balance. I try and remember why I'm doing this, and but at the same time, I try and be respectful of the relationships that I've made, and what people depend on me for. I say I'm going to ship something by October 7th. I really meant it when I said it, but then
Yeah.
ceramics and all of that, and then it ends up being August or October 21st kind of a thing. But it's just kind of keeping the balance. And although I like to be out there all the time, be more punctual, it's hard. And then just it's just me out here too. So on top of just doing all the studio stuff, making it, the photography, trying to communicate with people and going out and selling it. It's cooking for myself and just cleaning up after myself and laundry.
I think people get that too.
And
Especially anyone that has purchased a mug from you and they have received it in hand. They understand that this is not something that just gets made overnight. This is something
thanks.
that takes blood, sweat, and tears
Yeah.
to make this mug look the way it looks. And so I know it's always good to meet your deadlines, but personally, for
Yeah.
me, having obtained one of your mugs, if you want to fudge it a couple months, I don't really care because I know you're going to deliver a fantastic mug in
Thank,
the end.
thank you very much. Yeah. Uh, yeah, I know we all try to balance life the best we can. And, thank you all for giving me the opportunity to do what I love because I couldn't do it without you guys. So, thanks.
We appreciate you so much, man. Keep doing what you're doing. We did have a winner of the Black Lagoon Room Thirsty Creature pin. The person that got it correct, they got it correct really quickly, so they must know their stuff. But Witch Doctor 819 on Instagram, you got it correctly. PNG Papua New Guinea is the most linguistically diverse country on the planet. They
Really?
actually they have over 839 spoken languages
No way.
today on the island, which is absolutely bonkers.
Wow.
The number 2 place is like way far off. It's like 600 something. So
Huh.
now you know, Papua New Guinea.
Thank you for that. Wow. I would
So
have been.
with that said, man, we're on overtime. It has been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
One last question for you. If
Yeah.
people want to know more about your mugs, where should they go? Where do they follow you?
I think Instagram is the best place. That's where I post the most consistently. In my story, is where I try and post a lot of the work in progress stuff, pictures from the studio, and I will make a better effort to get you guys some better pictures and more updated posts and things like that. As the holidays are up too, so yeah, I'll try and bring you guys along with me the best that I can, so you can see what's going on and a little bit more us too. So
We love it, dude. Your
cool.
mugs are fantastic. Your mugs are inspiring. They're different than anything anyone else has been releasing thus far. It's so original and intriguing more than anything else. I'm so excited to see what you do once you get this new kiln up and running. I can only imagine.
It'll be fun. Yeah, I'll be posting more videos of the burners and the rumble like this. Shh, like, that's what I'm
just don't rush it too early and open the kiln before you're supposed to.
Yeah,
I know there's that temptation to be like, how's it looking? How's it looking? Don't mess it up.
Oh man, it's nerve wracking hearing the ping, 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 and then the pop. Been there, done that.
Lesson learned.
Yeah.
And with that said, man, it is time to announce the winner of the Thirsty Creature mug from Tiki Diablo and our official 13 Nights of Tiki Frights sponsor, the Black Lagoon Room. The winner is, and I can never pronounce the names, but we'll give it my best bet. The first one's easy, Richard, and I think the last name is Cairns, Cairns. So congratulations, Richard. You won the Thirsty Creature mug.
Awesome.
Michael, it has been amazing. Thank you so much for joining us on 13 Nights of Tiki Frights.
Right on, man. Take
Hopefully
care.
I get to see you next year at Tiki Caliente.
Right on, man. Look forward to it. Thanks.
Mahalo.
Mahalo.
Talk soon. Thank you, man.